Hello everyone, it's Tom from Manna Insect. Welcome to our Manna Insect Farming app launch event. Soon I will hand over the presentation to the CEO and founder of Manna Insect, Ika Marjanen. But before that, a couple of points regarding today's session. First of all, this will be recorded. So if you don't have a chance to join the session live or for some reason have problems with your internet connection or audio connection, whatever the issue may be, if you can't stay online the full event, which will take less than 1 hour, this recording will be sent to all registered participants. The presentation materials as such are not made available, but of course you can view them here on the recording. You can ask questions, and at the end of the session, Uka will be answering those questions as well as share a link to the actual beta tester list. So if you want to access the Manna Insect Farming app among the very first, there is a waiting list at the moment that we will open then soon. Uka will tell more about it, but that link will be shared at the end of this session. That said, please ask questions and leave comments. Uka, the floor is yours. You're welcome.
Hey guys, so this time we will focus on the other part of the insect farming rather than the climatization, which we announced September, the Generation 2 version. So I'll just go shortly through who we are, what we have done, and what we think are the main challenges of insect farming and what we have learned in the past 5 years, which we want to start solving now with a application format. And we'll go through the main value and the main features of the application in itself, and then of course how you can get involved and start using it. So we started 5 years ago with a lot of interest to solve a problem on how to create feed for animals, and we thought that black soda-fly larvae definitely was a completely new potential, that luckily there were people already using it, but we felt that it hadn't been really solved as a toolkit on how anyone can do it anywhere in the world. And our first product and our own solution for ourselves was a way to refurbish a shipping container into a climatized space using as much as possible local equipment and local materials. And since then, we have deployed either containers or a spaces where our Manna Mind control system is to practically all continents in over 15 countries worldwide. And while doing that, we've had hundreds of telcos, I think over 500 telcos to people with different needs. And now we have, of course, experience from tens of customer cases on what other support and what other needs there are besides climatizing a space for insect rearing and breeding. And with that information and knowledge, we've actually come to realize that there are 4 main categories what an insect farmer needs as well to be a professional farmer and create a livelihood and a profitable business out of rearing and breeding black soda-fly larvae. One is, of course, on how do we make the actual black soda-fly and larvae do its work as optimal as possible. And this relates to optimal environment conditions, regardless of what happens outside. The larvae itself, the flies, are always in the perfect conditions. But we realize that this only solves one out of 4 of the main challenges. The second part is that how do you then actually run an insect production, even if you're doing it very small scale? And how do you continuously optimize it for any scale, document, manage, and then especially how do you predict the next task and schedule if you have a plan, let's say, to produce 1 ton of live larvae, what needs to happen 2 weeks before, what needs to happen before that, and so on. And we've seen very various ways of people doing it, but no real solution for it. Additionally, the training and learning and improvement has been, let's say, somewhat random and different in many cases. And that's why we have started the free webinars and consultancy, but also there's been a lot of people who've done training in different parts of the world. But the typical problem with training is that you can do it in a couple of days, but you need constant learning, you need constant improvement. And that has so far required you to go Google and watch tons of videos and try to figure it out yourself. And then the fourth part, which is definitely not the least part, is that you need buyers and sellers. You basically need someone to buy the larvae unless you're using it yourself. You need to know the pricing, you need to know different formats that you can sell larvae, what can you promise with the larvae, and so on. So all these 4 areas are critical, and this is what we are kind of, let's say, starting to move towards, instead of just focusing on the first one, which we think that we have a solution for. And these are the things that have come up in the webinars that we have had, but also a distilled challenge is that if you want to do a profitable insect production, and what we mean a profitable insect production has somewhat been different than most people have described it. I personally believe, and Manna, we believe that the only way really to make an impact and really scale insect production, it has to be competitive to soy meal. And that competitiveness means especially price and availability. So if you can't deliver the amounts of soy meal that are available worldwide, then, or in the local environment, that doesn't allow you to sell to a level that an animal farmer would rely on it. And also, I haven't met an animal farmer who's willing to pay a higher price than what alternative is available. So to achieve that, it's the most critical environment is actually to get to a bio-waste source that is local and available. And it needs to be affordable and locally available. And this is typically where we start the first discussions with potential customers, is that if you don't have a bio-waste source available, it's not local, and you don't know how well it, let's say, grows larvae, it's almost impossible or unrealistic to move to the next steps before this is solved. Then, of course, even if you're doing it in a very small scale, you still need to have a very systematic process. We learned this ourselves the hard way over 3 years of testing different methods and ways, that you have to be very restrictive and very clear that you do every phase exactly and every task regardless of who is actually doing it. And you do need to measure and have certain metrics that need to be logged, like the amount of eggs. If you're doing breeding, you need to know how many eggs you get every day you collect eggs. You need to know the survivability in the nursing. You need to know the feed conversion rate by measuring the larvae in sample size. You need to know how long the larvae will eat for different various substrates. And you need to train and continuously learn yourself and the employees that you have. So this is very important if you want to do a professional production. Additionally, a separate issue which we have seen a lot is that the breeding is not just pretty hard, but actually very hard to do if you want to be systematic. And typically it's been a bottleneck in scaling, even for bigger companies. And if you're doing it outdoors, this is where the outdoors are actually very, very volatile compared to a controlled environment, even though it has its challenges in rearing as well. Then we've seen a lot of questions about where to find customers, what is the right price, what are the formats of live larvae, whole dried larvae, BSF meal, flash, what are the packages, how much can I ask, what are the applications, where it is better, and so on. So a lot of questions and a lot of need of concrete people. And then the last, to just emphasize that the more you talk to customers, especially in this case animal farmers, not pet food companies, they are basically comparing it to a soy meal when it comes to functionality and the price. And I don't want to kind of oversell the superiority of BSF larvae, especially if the price isn't comparable to soy and corn meal. If the price is comparable, then BSF meal and BSF in different form actually is very advantaged compared to soy and corn. So without further ado, what we have come up is something a tool that we have used ourselves in different forms. And now we wanted to create a version that anyone can use, which we call Manna Insect Farming App. And regarding what I just said earlier, the idea of the farming app is that it solves three major topics. One is that how do you learn interactively? How do you get 24/7 support for whatever you do? And how do you start without much knowledge? Because this was extremely hard for us. We watched tons of YouTube videos, but then when we actually started doing it, we realized that most of the YouTube videos were not teaching correctly, or they were, let's say, not overlapping with knowledge. So there were a lot of places where we just didn't understand what needed to be done. So we want to solve this problem as well. So you learn interactively, you learn step by step, and you can always ask 24/7 for any troubleshooting. The second part is how do you actually manage and improve insect production? And for this, what it actually means is how do you measure, how do you log information that can be calculated and given you as a metric of how well is your, let's say, breeding process going? How well is your rearing process? Could it be better, and how it can be better? And what should you test next to continuously improve? And then the third part is that how do you locally connect to different sources if you need eggs, if you need equipment, if you need to know buyers, and so on. So all these three aspects are the key value and key ingredients in our solution. And just to give you an idea, you can use it the idea is that everyone who is involved in the insect production, it works on a mobile phone, and it's used while you're doing it as easy as possible in different cases. So what does learn actually mean? It means that every phase of the process, there's guidance, there's hints and tips, and it teaches you while you're doing different phases, and it suggests automatically the tasks that should be done for each of these phases as part of the process. The 24/7 with our knowledge base that we have gathered from years of experience and the best research that we think are valid. And based on that, you actually can ask questions from a chatbot that is trained on BSF. So this gives you a 24/7 support for any issues that you might have, from whether it is that my eggs don't hatch well, or they are moldy, or the food is not eaten, or the larvae are dying in the middle of the process, and so on. And we are also gathering information, or the app is gathering information that gives you an indication of a concrete metrics of how efficient is your production, how much better can the breeding be, for example, or how much better the food conversion rate could be, and how do you test and improve it. And also it allows you to manage employees and see what tasks they've done and what have been the metrics for those tasks. And then, like I said, as locally as possible, you can input and see the local sources and companies and people involved in different parts. And especially one that we have seen a lot is where to get the eggs and neonates for the rearing process. In practice, what the features are, it works on any internet connected equipment. So as it is basically a website, it works on phone, table, tablet, or computer, or any other type of device in itself. And it's optimized for a website, so you can actually it's optimized for a mobile phone. So the idea is that you can actually use even an older mobile phone with it. There's a process where you create a farm, and from that farm you can create different facilities and processes, and you can invite other people to be part of that. And the idea is that it doesn't require in itself a Manna mind per se, so you can use it outdoors or any other shed or facility that you already have. And it suggests tasks and schedule based on the inserted data that you have in it. So you can store different tasks, and you can log all the tasks that you've done, so that it can actually guide you on what you need to do next, or where might be the problem. And like I said, there is an created AI and localized sources of the information as well. So we have now started a beta testing program, and of course this is so-called a soft launch. And if you're interested to test and try it, there is a web link below that you can register, and we will contact you when the time comes. And we want to really see that this is a practical tool for anyone to use. So our idea is that we gather information, and probably during the end of this year we will expand the beta program, and next year we will release it to everyone available. And before you ask, there is a free version, and later there is a paid version coming. But for now, the first use and the basic features that I set up there is free for everyone to use. Thank you.
All right, so we have room for questions. Feel free to ask a question through the chat or the question section. We haven't had any questions yet. There was somebody requesting to speak, but unfortunately we can't get you live using a microphone. So please do ask the questions through the questions or chat sections. I will go through them as they come. First of all, couple of things. So Yuka, you said that the first beta version is soon out. Is there a number of people that can be taken in, and how do people get chosen who gets to have the access at first? Now let's see. We've lost Yuka He has a bit of a bad
and
connection, but
we
so let's
have
see.
our current customers that
Okay, can you hear me? You are breaking up.
there.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, so we use it ourselves, and then we have our current mine customer base that we have interacted with it, and we hope that in the beta um, link that is here, it asks a few questions, and based on that, we will contact and we select based on that there is a use case for it, as we want to really have concrete people who want to do insect farming are doing insect farming, and let's say verify that the features are, let's say, valuable.
Okay, and can you repeat the schedule? So when do people have access to it as a beta users? Do you already know it on? And when is it going to be publicly available for anyone to access?
So in 2 weeks we will start adding more beta users based on the waiting list, and in early next year, I would say in about 15th of January, it will be open for everyone, give or take a week or so, because we do want to get first a more feedback from beta users and different use cases before we release it completely open for everyone. But about in 2 weeks, you can expect to be get an invitation to join, or at least we will first contact you and maybe arrange a telco, and then guide and go through the initial setup and so on.
Right. So, and it works on all platforms, meaning that who have access to internet through their Apple device or iPhone, or could it be used through web browser or a mobile terminal with a browser, or is it just an app? And what if I have an old Nokia phone that supports app? Does it work then as well?
It works. It is basically a website that is designed to be a very app-like feeling. So the main use case is a mobile phone that is, let's say, relatively modern, let's say within 5-6 years old, Android or iPhone. But it can be used on tablets or computer or anything that has a relatively modern web browser.
Right. So, is it downloadable somewhere other than now through the waiting list? So, does it go up to Play Store or iTunes or somewhere where people can later then download it on their device?
At the moment, it is a website link, so you don't need to download anything. You will go to a specific link, and you can bookmark that to your phone, and it will act like a application. But we will later have an app version for the Play Store and App Store as well, but it's principally the same.
What about the language version? Somebody was asking if it's going to be available in Spanish.
The first version will be now in English, but this is definitely something that we are working to make universal. So luckily there are tools that will allow you to translate to any language from English. But Spanish and few other major languages, we will work on those first. Definitely, we have recognized that Spanish is one of the other popular languages, let's say, among with English as well.
So if it's a basically a mobile optimized website, could people actually use the Google Translate, like the browser's translation, um, like a plugin to use it in different languages?
Yes, Yeah, that's definitely one of the easiest way to use. You can enable it for the website, and then everything that we provide you guidance in English, the browser will actually directly translate. So in that regard, it's already um, can be translated to any language. But of course, we will then later do an official version in Spanish, because I'm not completely sure how well Google example translates all the black solid fly larvae terminology, for example.
Right, right. So it's free for individual users. What about companies? If a company wants to have several employees using the app and have access to each other's, whatever they have added to the numbers and stuff to the app, is that free then as well?
So the the structure is about related to a farm. So if you have a so you will create a farm, and the free and paid version is tied to a farm, not to an individual employee or a user. So, but for now, we start with a free version, and the features that we will add now are free, and then we will later add features that are valuable enough for someone to pay for it. But for us, it's very important to give an access to as many people as possible to start using it.
And you mentioned earlier about what you can basically do with the app, but is there a feature list available?
And not more, let's say, detailed than now in here, because we want to give ourselves a flexibility to add and remove features based on the beta testers. But the principle is pretty much here, and the basics. But the details of the features themselves, and we are working on still on the UI details. So that's why I didn't want to bring the like a detailed pictures yet, because we are constantly changing them and balancing the easy and simple use case compared to enough core features, so it doesn't overwhelm with many menu options and these kind of things.
What about the buy and sell feature slash marketplace? Is that already available as well? And how could I buy or sell eggs or larvae or anything related to that?
So now we have many discussions already with companies that provide services and example eggs and neonates and tools regarding the rearing part, and those we will be adding probably early next year after the beta testing program there. And then we have a feature that anyone can add and promote their own through us in there, because there's few key things that have been important. The other part, which will come later, and of course, the more users there are, there's a few countries where we focus more, that we can add a platform for people to announce that they're also buying larvae as well. But this is a platform development. So we have phases, and the first phase is that we provide enough value for an individual farmer to run the process and learn how to run the process.
Does it cost something to promote my own production there?
Well,
I mean, if somebody wants
initially,
to sell eggs or larvae, so does it cost something, or does Manna get give people free access to sell their BSF related stuff?
so initially, at least, the minimum thing we will do is that we will talk and evaluate the if there is someone who wants to sell eggs or wants to sell services or announce biowaste and these, we will manually evaluate each case and verify the amounts and all that, so that it's not let's say that certain quality standards are met through us. And then also there is of course a some level of fee depending on what is the service. So if you're interested in that, please contact us. We have to remind that that's why it is a beta, that we are learning with customers and users on what features to add and in what stage and in priority. But the idea is that we will also have a localized versions where you have localized network and sources as well available.
Now, not all people are familiar with the phrase of beta testing or becoming a pilot or beta user. How does it differ from being an actual customer or actually using the app? What's the difference of beta versus the actual app?
Well, in beta and pilot, we want to emphasize that we are still learning, and many features can change drastically, and there might be issues or bugs and these kind of things. So if you sign up as a pilot beta user, you should expect that the product is not completely polished and working 100%, and some features might be missing. And the reason why we're doing that is, of course, that even though we have done a lot of rearing and breeding ourselves, we live in Finland. We have certain resources available and so on. So we don't know everything, and that's why we want to get people that give us feedback so we can correct and improve before it goes out there to everyone, where we will be overwhelmed with feedback, and the non-beta users will expect a polished product. And now we are looking people to help us polish the product before that.
Right. If our attendees have any more questions, please add them to the chat or directed to the questions section. Uka, do you have any sort of final words for our registrants today? What should they expect? Would they expect their minds to be blown, or is it yet another app that nobody's using? What's going to happen? What are we looking for?
Well, we wanted to solve initially our own problem, and what we thought was the critical thing that hasn't been solved, and which is a huge value, is that there is an interactive way to learn and improve and get feedback, not just a general feedback of what is the temperature of rearing and these kind of things, but actual feedback based on what you are doing and how you're doing. It's like a 24/7 mentor that has the best knowledge in BSF, and I think that's the big mission for us, and that's the exciting part. That it's not about inputting number of eggs and then having like a Google sheet, which you can already do, but actually have a mentor that is specifically tailored for your issues.
And you mentioned earlier that it's there's a knowledge base / artificial intelligence that guides you in the process as well, right?
Yeah, and that is of course one of the new exciting technologies that has enabled us to really get this going, as we want to get the expert knowledge in a form of questions and answers. We have done a lot of work of making PDF slides, making webinars, but it's the documentation format is very overwhelming if you have 20 pages of slides and a lot of details. So this AI development that has happened has really made it more accessible to have a kind of human type of interaction, that currently we have tens of WhatsApp groups with our customers that we go through them manually, and unfortunately we cannot scale that as it is. And now we have put all our knowledge and the knowledge from collective research and user community into a form that you can actually interact with.
All right. Thank you, Uka. Thank you, everyone, for joining. The recording will be sent to all registered participants probably latest tomorrow. Until then, please do join the beta tester list, the waiting list, and we'll be in touch with you. Thank you, Uka,
Yeah.
and thanks everyone for joining. Cheers.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.